Hey everyone, this is Stefan from Lush and Salty Aquariums. It's nighttime here at Mi Casa, and we're looking at a tank that's gone through all kinds of transformations. Not looking as good as it has in the past from a pure aesthetic point of view, but the fish seem to be happy as all hell because Lord knows they're breeding. Right now I have a preponderance of Endler fry. You can see them all. I mean, look at all those babies. And I've culled a few, taken them out, moved them to various tanks. I basically have a bonanza of Endler guppy fry, and I would give some away happily if anybody wanted. They'd have to hit me up and come and get them, and then they're yours. I'll give you a bag of at least a half a dozen. In any event, if I don't find a home in that fashion, I'll continue to move them about from one tank or another, and ultimately I might even feed some to my saltwater fish. The interesting thing is, in this tank I have a dwarf gourami who is not touching the fry. You can see him in the back there. Gorgeous little fish. And obviously the Endlers aren't feeding on them either. And if they are, then there's even more than I thought. But there's quite a few in here, you can see. And there's another fat female. Oh Lord, so there's another 30 imminent babies. So overpopulation, and I'm gonna have to solve for that. I was hoping some predation might take place in this tank. I've actually got a couple dwarf pea puffers, if you can believe it. I know that's a bozo no-no, but they're in there too, but they're not eating them as well. They come out for blackworms and daphnia, but I don't see them picking on the fry. So there goes that myth, and I actually wanted them to eat some of the fry. I've got one great colony of frog bit, this topwater plant. Every one of those leaves is attached to the mother plant right there. And I've trimmed the pothos, which was getting pretty messy in the side, to now one stalk with a couple roots that are keeping it true and straight. And then I put another leaf cutting straight into the hang-on back, and that's doing really well. There's a clump of roots in there. I had, for the first time in all my tanks, an algae problem. You could probably see some of it, some blackbeard algae, the little tufts at the edge of that crypt there. So what I've done is I've added back in a carbon filter pad in there, and I've increased the CO2 to some extent, and I'm adding Fluval, the carbon liquid as well, because those are various means to handle the algae, and I think that'll work. Now, overpopulation could be the culprit, but I've had plenty of adult fish in this tank and not experienced a lick of algae. So it also could be because it's springtime, frankly it's summer. We do have a window right in the back, and even though I do have protective filament just behind this tank, it does get a bit of direct sunlight, not that much. There's the honey gourami. Isn't she gorgeous? Or he? But not predating on any of these little fish fry. So the good news is, if you want to mix a dwarf gourami and even pea puffers with Endlers, and oh, guess what? I've got a super happy colony of clown killifish as well. They're fat and happy. Kind of wish some of these fry belonged to them, but I rather doubt it. So tons of fish in this small tank. I get it. I've already received criticism on other blog posts for my large populations of fish. I get it. Trust me. I know it's rule number one, and I break it all the time with mostly zero problems, except with live bearers, ultimately, inevitably, overpopulation. Nevertheless, this tank is still a joy. It's still a lot of fun to play with. And I wanted Endlers because I think they're smaller. I know they're smaller than guppies and a little bit more, I don't know, elegant, exotic, natural. These are different kinds that I mixed in with a couple female black bar Endlers. So we'll see what these fry turn into. I have some babies over in that jar with a bubble filter, or a sponge filter, excuse me, and they're growing up. I can already sex them in there, and I put some others behind me in the jar aquarium on my desk. So that's looking at a bit of a mess, a bit of a joyful mess, and that's part of fish keeping. And that's why I always keep my hands in the tank. Ciao for now.